general meetings as well. So the the clarity now is that we can now even host general meetings on the VC and therefore carry on all necessary work during the crisis period itself. I would request everyone, including those who just recently entered, to keep their videos off. I can go and stop people's videos, but that's not a good use of our time. So kindly, please, all of you, requesting all of you to please respectively turn all your videos off. There are some people still coming in, so let's allow them to come in. But as I mentioned, let's please keep the videos and audios off for everyone. And let's therefore get focused on what we're going to talk about. So what are we going to do today? I might still have to go and admit people even as we speak, because some people are still trying to enter in. But let me just start setting the pretext of today's meeting. We'll have approximately 1.5 hours to talk about corporate meetings during the crisis. I don't need to build up the background of why this discussion was required, as I'm sure all of you appreciate. There is, we are all passing through a peculiar time where we have extraordinary circumstances, and work still has to go on. So question basically is that during this period of crisis, how can companies still carry work on? How can companies still do meetings? Do companies need meetings? Well, I think almost without doubt companies require meetings. As you can see, half of the world, more than half of the world's population is under a lockdown. More than half the world's population is closeted into the respective chambers and cabins and rooms. And well, companies still have to continue to function in the meantime. So there is a need, very obviously, there's a need to continue to work. And therefore, there might be a need to take decisions. And I'm sure you all appreciate that corporate decisions may very often require meetings. There could be a variety of types of meetings. There could be meetings of the board. There could be general meetings. There could be so-called class meetings. There could be committee meetings. There could be management committee meetings as well. So meetings could happen at various range of, the organs of functional or decision-making organs of companies. It could be a management meeting. It could be a committee meeting. It could be a board meeting. It could be a general body meeting. It could be a class meeting, creditors meeting, and more. There could be lots and lots of meetings which might be required for companies. So question basically is, as we talk about meetings in context of corporate laws, we are not talking about management committee meetings, internal meetings of the management, internal meetings meaning where the meeting is not meeting of the board or an organ of the board. For example, a committee is a subset or organ of the board, but that's almost borrowing its powers from the board. There are therefore rules applicable to committee meetings, but internal meetings which are completely, let's say, management meetings, internal management meetings, we are not discussing those meetings, but those meetings are completely out of the scope of any corporate law or corporate rules, or even for that matter, any kind of secretarial standards. We're talking therefore about board meetings, committee meetings, and general body meetings. Now, why do you need to actually do meetings during this time? Is this the right time to do meetings? Sure enough, not. So, question basically, what about the annual general meeting? We still have time. I'm sure all of you would agree that we still have a lot of time, because we have time till June to prepare the financial statements. Uske baad dekha jayega, tab tak I'm not sure the situation will remain as critical as of now. So we'll probably have time for don't therefore hurry for the annual general meeting. But then general meeting business could still be required for other matters. For example, there could be a need to, let's say, get into a section 181A resolution, sale or disposal of undertaking. There could be a reason to exceed the borrowing powers. Borrowing powers are exhausted. But what I normally say is that borrowing powers is something that an efficient company secretary, gets enough of dispensation from the general meeting to take care of borrowing needs for next 7 generations. He passes one resolution which takes care of next 7 generations need for borrowing power. So this would basically be quite exceptional circumstance where somebody could think of, let's say, 181C limit getting exhausted. But then there might be financial transactions within the group. Let's say you might be able to give a guarantee for a group company which borrows money from a bank. You might probably need to create a collateral in favor of a group company. There might be question of managerial appointments. It could be such that on 31st of March 2020, the managing director's tenure came to an end, or might be the appointment of independent directors. IDs, their term also might have ended on 31st March. I mean, so if people have so appointed IDs that the tenure ended on 31st, that's obviously not the best way, because IDs should actually be appointed from AGM to AGM. I mean, that's, to my mind, the year in case of ID should actually be starting with the conclusion of the AGM and go to the 5th AGM. So the appointment should be from AGM to AGM basis rather than on calendar year or let's say financial year basis. But if people have done appointments on financial year basis, that's also a case where the appointment might be coming to an end. There might, of course, be a larger need for board. So while I'm saying general meetings may be needed, but the need for general meetings will be far less frequent than the need for board meetings. This is even more recurring in nature. We might need board meetings for any of the matters covered by section 179/3. Now 179/3 has quite routine matters, for example, borrowing, lending or investment. And the good thing is that those are matters which are typically delegated. But what is not delegated is power to issue securities. So if there's a question of issuance of securities, let's say the company wants to go for a bond issuance, the company wants to do a private placement of bonds, you will still need to pass a resolution. I would quickly point here that what requires a board decision is the power to issue. Power to allot is not something which requires board decision. Issuance has been authorized by the board. Allotment may just follow without a board meeting. Board is not required to allot. Therefore, allotment is not something for which you need to wait for a board decision, unless, I mean, at the time when you issue the securities, you kept the power with the board itself. But normally speaking, the board may authorize, the board may authorize a committee, it may be committee of the board, it may be committee of officers to carry out the allotment process. So that's not something for which you need a board meeting. You might also have to get into contracts where directors have some degree of interest. Section 184, for example, talks about interest, talks about contracts where directors have an interest. For example, let's say you have a contract with a company in which the director holds X% shareholding. So there might be a question of, well, is this something which will require approval of the board in terms of 184/2? Now I need to quickly say here that 184/2 is not something which by itself requires the concurrence or consent of the board. 184/2 says if a matter, if a contract where a director is interested comes to the board, in that case the director in question will have to recuse or will have to refrain from participating. It causes recusal of the director. It does not force the matter to come to the board. I can see there are several people raising, I can at least see 2 persons raising hands. I will surely be coming. Let me just finish with this part and I'll surely be coming with the questions. So intermittently what we will do is to pause for a while and take questions. But otherwise, I would intend to maybe very quickly come to the MCA circular, because I think all of you might have gone to the MCA circular and probably might have issues with that. So I'll come to that very, very quickly. Once I'm saying that 184 by itself is not something which forces matters to come to the board. All it says is that if such a matter comes to the board, then the interested director must refrain from participating. So I'm of the view that unless the matter comes otherwise, and let's say because of 188, the matter comes to the board, there is no reason for the interested director to actually force the matter to come to the board and thereafter refrain from participating. But more importantly, there might be a question of appointment of directors. The tenure might have ended. You might need an additional director. There might be a question of renewal of contracts. Now you might have taken some kind of resolution for ongoing contracts which might have actually lapsed on 31st of March. Or you might have exceeded the limits. Well, when your last year's board meeting envisaged contracts, the limit might have got exhausted. So there might be various reasons for which you might need a board concurrence. And for the very same reason, you might need an audit committee concurrence also. So board approvals and audit is something that you might need even more often. And I think all of you are in the world of practice. We also continue to interact with people in practice. We get to hear that there are lots and lots of matters which might require placing a matter before the audit committee. For example, if there is a question of utilization of proceeds of a bond issuance, this might need to be placed before the audit committee. So question of putting things before the audit committee, related party approvals, issuance procedure and so on and so forth might require the audit committee's interaction as well. Even more significant than that would be the CSR committee. Your company might like to make a contribution to the PM CARES relief fund. I mean the COVID relief fund, which is very noble cause to currently contribute money right now too. And your CSR committee might say, well, हमने तो पास नहीं किया resolution. Last year जब हमने CSR policy adopt किया था, CSR budget pass किया था, कोरोना के लिए pass नहीं किया था. How could you ever envisage such a thing to have been approved? So your committee might take, well, we need to meet and pass a resolution. Lots of these things can be done by circulation. I'm once again very emphatic that don't think of the board meeting as the committee meeting as the only way, because lots of things can be done by circulation as well. So that brings us to the basic question: is corporate meeting a compliance requirement or is it a business requirement? Is it something which the law requires as self-serving requirement of the law? Is it something which the law as a policy requires us to do? Or is this something that we need for corporate decision making? I'm sure all of you would, unequivocally agree that basically we need meetings to decide. Meetings are needed for decision making. Meeting is not something which is a formality of law that we need to do just to meet compliance with the law. Meeting is something which is required to take a decision. Meetings could be required for approval. Meetings could be required for decisions. Meetings are required, therefore, for ascertaining the sense of the relevant body. The relevant body could be a general meeting. So we're needing a meeting of the general body to ascertain the sense of the members. What are the members wanting? They're wanting to ascertain the wishes of the members. That's the reason for a corporate meeting to happen. Same in case of board meetings as well. Corporate meetings, therefore, do not serve a compliance purpose. They are not a policy directive. They are basically a business need. It's not a prescription of law that we need to do a meeting. A need for a meeting arises when we need something to be decided. The solitary exception to this, the sole exception to that, could be an annual general meeting. Now, this is something which, ironically enough, I'm saying ironically because as I take you to what other countries have done, you will get to realize that it's ironical that in India we have not woken up to this requirement. On the contrary, we make things even more tricky, more tedious, even more procedure driven in India. But annual general meeting is seen by the lawmakers as some kind of a peshi. The directors ka members ke samne some kind of peshi is there. Why do I use this word peshi? Because the way the corporate laws thought, lawmakers, Jenkins committee years back thought that shareholders have appointed the directors to manage the affairs of the company for them, for the shareholders. If we do not call the directors even once to face the shareholders, it's like a complete dereliction of duty. These people were entrusted with the company's business, the company's assets, the company's funds, and they don't want to see the shareholders at all. So that's not something which the lawmakers have thought it wise. So long time back when the Companies Act was framed, the annual general meeting was taken as an annual ritual. This is a social ritual है. Directors को एक बार साल में कम से कम shareholders को face करना पड़ेगा. बाकी तो आपको जरूरत पड़े मिलिए, लेकिन साल में एक बार आपकी पेशी जरूर होगी. वहाँ shareholders अलग अलग करेंगे, 5-7 tough question पूछेंगे, कोई chairmen को, कोई directors को गाली देगा, कोई उनको ताली बजाएगा. Whatever they do, depending on how popular how well your company secretary is managing the shareholders. Sometimes company secretary is so good at managing shareholders कि हर बार आके बड़ाई करते हैं. But I have seen lots of corporate meetings having more of din than any. General meetings mostly have more of a din. I don't need to be spending time discussing all of that. So let's come straight. The provisions of the statute are very quickly passed through that. I will not spend time on that. But please understand, when we talk about board meetings, we're talking about sections 173 to 176, talking about board meetings. Specifically, we're talking about the section which talks about video conferencing, board meetings by VC, 173 by 2. The entire set of MBP rules is dedicated to board meetings, and the entire SS1 is also dedicated to board meetings. As regards general meetings, there are a lot more provisions in the law. Sections 96 to 117 talk about general meetings, and then sections 108 to 110 specifically deal with postal ballots and e-voting. And the entire company's management and administration rules, at least parts of that, deal with general meetings. Rules 17 to 31 are mostly dedicated to EOGM. And then we also have SS2, which is obviously dedicated to general meetings. So when we talk about board meetings and general meetings, the typical mind frame is that we open our shastras, we open our ritual books, textbooks and ritual books, and we try to say, अरे इसमें कहाँ लिखा है NBP rules में कि आप ऐसे कर सकते हैं, आपने कहाँ लिखा है SS1 में कैसे कर सकते हैं, कहाँ लिखा है SS2 में. The normal instinct of every compliance professional is to open up SS1, SS2, NBP rules, sections, and से आप बताइए कहाँ लिखा है सर कि कोरोना के टाइम में मीटिंग कैसे करें, क्राइसिस के टाइम में मीटिंग कैसे करें, क्राइसिस के टाइम में कोई भी चीज कैसे करें. I'm sure you all appreciate that क्राइसिस के टाइम में हॉस्पिटल्स को कैसे मैनेज करें उसका नहीं मालूम था अनफॉर्चुनेटली. तो क्या कंपनीज मीटिंग कैसे करेगी इसका मालूम होना चाहिए था. That sounds, I mean, completely outrageous thought to think of the crisis being envisaged by the rule makers and lawmakers. But well, we as compliance professionals, our normal instinct is we try to rummage through our books of shastras and we try to see इसका आंसर बताइए कहाँ है, और आंसर नहीं मिलता तो हमको लगता है this is something that is not permitted. So back to point, I'm very quickly now building the background of what I'm trying to say. The whole purpose of any meeting is to ascertain the sense of the body. Ascertaining the sense of the body, that's the normal, I mean, the intent of any meeting. And sense of a meeting can be ascertained by formal means or by informal means. This part, the part that I've shaded a bit, this is very important. Informal modes of ascertaining. Now, there is no SS1 or SS2 for that. There is neither a section for that. But there is a body of case law on ascertaining the sense of a meeting by informal means. There's a substantial body of case law, and I'll very quickly come to that. But if you're using the formal means, then the sense of a general body meeting can be ascertained by either a postal ballot or a formal meeting. And in a formal meeting, you could do the meeting with e-voting or without e-voting, depending on whether your company is a listed company or your company has at least 1,000 shareholders. And then when you talk about corporate meetings in general, I'm not, for the time being, I'm not putting board meetings there. So the right time you talk about corporate meetings in general, we talk about meetings of shareholders, meetings of creditors. Meetings of shareholders, once again, could be general meeting versus class meeting. And general meeting, once again, could be an annual general meeting or extraordinary general meeting. And then we talk about meetings of creditors, we can talk about a class meeting. Sorry, I've got class meetings twice. It could be class meeting of creditors and meetings of debenture holders. Or it could be general meeting of creditors or it could be class meeting of creditors, because creditors की meeting also can be general meeting versus class meeting. For example, I might need to take sanction of all the creditors. In case of insolvency proceedings, sometimes, not in corporate insolvency, but some insolvency proceedings, we need to take general meeting, general body of creditors. Class meeting of creditors in so-called, let's say, schemes of arrangement, we need to take sanction of each class of, there will be separate meetings of class of creditors. So that's a meeting of class of creditors. These are things that we probably don't need to spend very much time right now. But I was coming to a very important point, which is, can there be something called an informal meeting as well? Now, can there be something, can the sense of the meeting be ascertained in informal way? So I'll use a couple of examples, and I'm hoping that none of you in this meeting today are those who attended my same meeting day before yesterday also. नहीं तो आप बोलेंगे क्या मैं टेप खोल दिया, जो लास्ट टाइम बोला तो वही एग्जैक्टली बोल रहा हूँ. मेरे पास ये टेप ही है, बार बार रिपीट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, मैं सेम ही टेप ऑन कर देता हूँ और सेम बोलता रहता हूँ, रख के रखता हूँ, बोलता रहता हूँ. तो I used two examples last time. I'll use the same examples. एक example है, I need to call a general meeting. I need to call a general meeting, say to increase the authorized share capital. I need to increase authorized share capital. I need to call a general meeting. I can see people are raising hands, so please allow me next few minutes, and I'll definitely come and take questions. In this case, I'll do a small pause and take questions. In case you want to write questions on the chat, that's also possible. In case you want to raise hand and speak the question, that's also possible. Give me maximum 3 to 4 minutes before I open up for questions, at the first tranche of questions at least. So I'm saying my company is a private company. My company is a private company consisting of 2 shareholders. When I talk about a company consisting of 2 shareholders, the imagination that people will have a छोटी सी company होगी, sir, कोई घरेलू company होगी. नहीं. Companies with 2 shareholders are not घरेलू companies. And I'm sure all of you agree there are companies carrying thousands of crores of turnover with just one or just two shareholders. The so-called IBMs of the world, the so-called Googles of the world, the so-called biggies who are in India, most of them are subsidiaries of foreign holding companies. Most of them are 100% subsidies of foreign owning companies. उसमें shareholders कितने होते हैं? In fact, the holding company is 100% shareholder, but for sake of technicality, they have one nominee with one share. So my company has two shareholders. I will, however, take the example of a private company, which is, let's say, family-owned company consisting of just two shareholders. Let's say brothers, father, son, or husband, wife, or the two shareholders of the company. This company needs to increase authorized share capital. It consults its company secretary, sir, the CS sir, tell me how do I increase the capital of the company? So CS अपना शास्त्र खोल के बताता है कि sir, for this I will need a resolution in general meeting. Fair enough? जनरल मीटिंग कॉल कर लेते हैं. कैसे करें कि सर आप एक काम करिए, शेयरहोल्डर्स को 21 दिन का नोटिस दीजिए. 21 दिन का नोटिस दीजिए टू कॉल द जनरल मीटिंग. 21 दिन का नोटिस किसको दूं? शेयरहोल्डर्स को. शेयरहोल्डर कौन है? मैं और मेरा भाई या मैं और मेरा बेटा? मैं और मेरा बेटा जो एक ही घर में रहते हैं या एक ही ऑफिस में बैठते हैं, उसको मैं मीट करने के लिए आई गिव हिम नोटिस कि 21 दिन के बाद आओ और मेरे से मिलो. He is right now with me, let's say instantaneously, but I tell him come after 21 days to meet me. And how do I tell him? I send him a notice. So I actually do what? I post a notice in the dark. In fact, आपको बताऊं कि right now as we're discussing, we were talking about the MC circular also, and there was a very interesting thought about notices. I'll come to that as we discuss later. So I'm sending what? I am calling my brother or my son for a meeting, which is actually in the same room or same house that I stay in. But I tell him through the Dakia, I go and post a letter in the post office. Please come and meet me after 21 days. Now, I'm sure you're getting the pun inherent in it. Is it sounding sensible that I call my so-called shareholder who sits with me day in and day out? I ask him to come for a meeting 21 days later, and I use communication through the postal medium. So there's a Dakia who travels with my notice. Then the Dakia travels back to my house with the notice addressed to my son or my brother. And I call him for a meeting 21 days later. This is one, I would say the so-called triviality of the process of calling meeting. I'll take another example. This one is real. So I said, and I used it last time as well. So let's say in a flight from UK to India. It's not happening right now, so don't get worried about it. In a flight from UK to India, you find a couple of people, two persons traveling, and they're traveling all the way from London to, they'll probably land in Delhi. Ask them why are they going to India? The reply is that they're going to India for holding a general meeting. They're coming all the way from London to India to attend in a general meeting. Remember, these are the two people who are representing the 100% holding company of the Indian subsidiary. One person is probably the corporate representative, the other person is nominee shareholder. Among them, they hold 100% of the capital of the company, and they're coming to India to call a meeting. But these people are 7.5 hours in the flight. They are together. Therefore, they probably sit in UK also in the same office. They probably meet, daily in UK, and they're 7.5 hours in the flight together. They fly 6,000, 7,000 kilometers to do a meeting, and that meeting actually is what is a purely perfunctory requirement. So the point I'm trying to say is that most of the corporate meetings, but I don't want to carry the view that meetings are shareholders' democracy, etc., etc. Those are sounding like extremely, beautiful thoughts. The reality of the corporate world is that 90% of the meetings are between, the so-called meetings are between shareholders who stay day in and day after in the same place, and therefore the meetings are nothing but a complete, it's a complete formality. It's a formality which can be avoided. The question therefore is, can these meetings actually be avoided? There are rulings and rulings. Remember that there are rulings and rulings which have actually upheld that the requirement of a formal process of attaining shareholders' consent is purely a formality of law, and this is something which is not unavoidable. It's not a substantive or mandatory provision of law. This is purely a directory requirement, and in appropriate circumstances, this can be done away with. So I'll just first talk about quickly some rulings, and then I'll come to provisions of law. I'll show the provisions of law as well. I guess you have the text of law as well before you, so maybe you can see the text of provision to corroborate what I'm trying to say. First point, this principle that you can actually ascertain shareholders' wishes through informal means is called the duomatic principle. Duomatic is the name of a case This Duomatic is the name of a ruling. Re-Duomatic, that's the name of the ruling. That's here, Re-Duomatic. That Lord Justice Buckley's ruling. Buckley is one of the most, authentic judges on corporate laws. Buckley in Duomatic 1969 ruling talked about informal resolution of shareholders. He said if, remember, unanimous consent of all shareholders is available, then the meeting is purely a formal. Meeting is not a necessary requirement. If what I have is unanimous concurrence of all, if all shareholders agree unanimously on any matter, then there is no need for a meeting. So a written resolution of all shareholders, if I got a couple of shareholders, I get it signed. If I got 100% holding company, I get it signed by the holding company. If I got 100% concurrence on the resolution, maybe by email, maybe by written piece of paper, then the meeting is purely dispensable. I don't need the meeting at all because that's something which is not even required. Have courts recognized that? I have rulings and rulings of Indian courts which have recognized the Duomatic principle. If you Google any place and call for Duomatic principle, look at the rulings of Indian courts, you'll find at least 20 Indian courts have adopted or cited with approval the so-called Duomatic principle. Among the earlier rulings, we have a ruling of the Patna High Court in Parikh engineering case, and subsequently similar rulings have been there by lots of other courts as well. A beautiful text from a ruling of Australian court in Wagner versus International Health Promotions. That's over here. You can see this part. This one says meeting does not have to be physical meeting. Meeting is meeting of mind. It's not a social gathering जहाँ आपको आके खाना पीना करना है. It's not a social gathering जहाँ पे आपको chit chat करना है. It's basically what? The idea basically is to ascertain the sense of the meeting. So what you mean is meeting of minds. So whatever technology enables you to do a meeting of mind, that is good enough as a meeting. I don't need, for every resolution, I don't need interaction. If shareholders are happy that I don't need interaction, I'm happy without interaction, in that case, I may not call for a formal, so-called interactive meeting as well. I can actually do away with interaction also. Now, if you open section 117(3)(b) of the Act, that's a very important clause there. You can see this is not a new provision. This provision has existed for years now. And if you open the section 117(3)(b), if you can just open the text, that would allow you to kindly see what I'm referring to. So see section 117 and then come to section 117(3)(b, right? And that's what this section says. See 117(3)(b. And come down and this is what it says, 3(b). That's where we are. So resolutions which have been agreed upon. See this part. Resolutions which have been agreed upon, agreed to by all the members of the company. I would like to stress on the word all the members of the company. If I have unanimous consent, so normally speaking, you talk about an OR, an SR, that's not unanimous sanction. There's no provision of the Companies Act which ever requires unanimous resolution. Unanimous resolution is not required by any provision of the Companies Act to my understanding. So this is the only place where we're saying if the idea is to avoid a meeting by shareholder consent, then I must have unanimous sanction, because even one shareholder wants to say that I need a meeting, then I cannot force the meeting to be avoided. I cannot say the meeting is an avoidable exercise, because this one shareholder, irrespective of shareholding, he might actually carry the thought that mere paas 1% shareholding tha. But if you allowed the meeting to happen, I could have actually changed the mind of the remaining 99% also. So even one shareholder saying that I need the meeting. So if I have concurrence of all the shareholders for themselves applying the discretion have come to a conclusion that they do not need a formal meeting. The law cannot come and say that you still need a meeting. What is the meeting for? After all, the meeting is to take a decision. If the shareholders are happy and they say we are happy with the decision in writing, then there is absolutely no need for a meeting as such. That's been the decision of several UK cases, and that's also been the decisions in several Indian rulings as well. So I'll just very quickly show you the Indian rulings which have likewise upheld that you can actually call a meeting without having a formal meeting at all. So you can see rulings and rulings, and here are some of the rulings. So the provisions for meetings are directory and not mandatory, and courts have upheld or applied the due-matic principle. There is an AP High Court ruling, there are Delhi High Court rulings and Mazda Theatres, there's a recent ruling in Adobe Properties. There are rulings and rulings of courts that say that the requirement for the meeting is not completely a formality or kind of mandatory requirement of law. This is something which can be avoided under circumstances. So let me just very quickly summarize what I'm saying, and I'll come back to questions right here. And before we proceed further, because we need to talk about board meetings, and then we need to talk about the VC enabled meetings as well. So very quickly, what I'm trying to say is that if you have 100% the shareholders unanimously agree that they are okay, for example, this increase of authorized share capital, all shareholders say that we are happy, well, we would like to increase authorized share capital. Why do we need a meeting at all? We don't need a meeting where a meeting is just not as such required. So meeting is not a mandate of law. I'm saying the only exception to my mind will be annual general meeting. AGM is somehow something which lawmakers have thought of as a necessary formality. Baki sari meetings are all avoidable if we have a decision from 100% of the shareholders. Now quickly, I must also add that in UK, for private limited companies, AGM was completely dispensed with. The requirement of AGM has completely been done away with in UK for private companies. There is no need for an annual general meeting for private limited companies in UK. This was done away with as long back as in 19. And therefore, it's an irony that in India we have not woken up to this need, because you'll all agree that for private limited companies, the thought of calling a meeting is actually a triviality. It's a mere. I mean, I would actually go to the extent saying that all we do basically is to fake the minutes. We just record the minutes of a meeting which actually never happened. No meeting was ever required actually, because for something like a private company, you actually don't need a meeting as such. I have Ravi Arora would like to ask something. So Ravi, if you can either say or maybe type on the chat, whatever you prefer. Ravi, do you want to say something? Ravi Arora ji? Okay. If not, Ravi Arora, do you want to say something? Okay. Right. I think we can continue to move forward. And Ravi, in case you want to type the whatever question or whatever in the chat as well, that's also possible. You can type it out too. Okay. Let me proceed further. And I was mentioning that we need to very quickly talk about the board meetings. I have a question from Chirag Ular. What is the meaning of the word special resolution 1117.3b? The meaning 1117.3b says that if we have resorted to this method, we've resorted, by the way, I must also very quickly say that this 117.3b is not the product of the Companies Act 2013. Same process was there in the 56 Act as well. Corresponding section of the 56 Act, corresponding to section 117, was section 192. 192 also had similar language. 192, to my recollection, 192 3G or somewhat similar, had a similar enabling text to say that if a resolution is agreed upon by all the members, it will be effective as a special resolution. Resolution which is agreed to by all members will be effective as a special resolution. That would mean this is treated as if it's an SR. So Chirag's point is that what's the significance of special resolution in section 117.3b? Significance is that if I'm resorting to this informal resolution method, I'm getting a written section of all shareholders. I would prefer that this is treated as a special resolution, and therefore please do filing of the resolution using the ubiquitous MGT 14. So this also requires filing so that you have filed it with the registrar as well. put it on record that we have passed a resolution by unanimous vote. So that's, to my mind, that's the meaning of 117.3b. There is a similar provision for class meetings as well. In case of class meetings also, you can use the same technique. So you'll find 173d also saying the same thing, similar thing, that you can actually pass similar resolution in class meetings too. So very, very quickly making a point that if you have small company with just a small number of shareholders, don't bother about a VC meeting at all. You can just go and get the resolution sanctioned by all the shareholders. That will be effective as if it's a resolution passed in a meeting. Let's proceed further, and we will. I'm wondering if people have any questions at that stage before we proceed further. If there are any questions, you can say at any point of time. As of now, I'll proceed further because the idea basically is to very quickly come to the MCA circular. I'm guessing you'll all have lots of questions when we come to MCA circular. So how is it that you take general meeting decisions during the crisis? How do you take? If it's possible to defer the meeting, you may not pass the resolution. You may not, if you defer the resolution for some time, you can do it once the things get normalized. If you can pass unanimous resolution by writing written consent of shareholders, you can proceed that way as well. If the company is much larger, you have lots of shareholders, and you are well in an urgent state of urgency, you need the meeting to be called. Then you follow the MCA circular, to which we are coming to very, very shortly. Let's proceed and we talk about holding of board meetings to VC. By the way, as I come to the MCA circular, there are lots of interesting developments also I need to share. So I think there are certain things that we need to be talking about as we come to that circular a little later. Let me come to the holding of board meetings to VC. So in case of board meetings, well, MCA was kind enough to permit general meetings by VC on the 8th of April. But when were board meetings by VC permitted? Those who are, I would call senior people in the room, would probably agree that this is something which was agreed to, this is something which was conceded long time back. In fact, 2011, 56 Act में भी so-called green initiative scheme, holding meeting by VC was a green initiative, and this was done long time back in 2011. And 2011 when some guidelines were drafted by the then Department of Company Affairs to permit VC, permit board meetings by VC. What is, however, therefore ironical is that to a large extent, to quite some extent, the text of even the present provisions continues to carry the thought, continues to carry some of the thoughts which were propounded long time back in 2011. So you find somehow very, very strange provisions in the provisions of law which talk about board meetings to VC. First of all, 173/2 says yes, you can participate in board meetings either personally or by VC. Either personally or by VC. मतलब VC में जो आ रहा है वो personally नहीं आ रहा. If you are participating in a board meeting through VC, like for example, I am participating through VC. ये personal नहीं है क्या? मैं like what? मैं नहीं हूँ कोई दूसरा आदमी है. जैसे आप सब आ रहे हैं तो आप नहीं हो कोई दूसरा आदमी है. पता नहीं मेरे को what is personally or through VC. That's a slant of the section. सेक्शन में ऐसा माना गया कि एक मीटिंग हो रही है एक पर्टिकुलर जगह, वहां पे 5 आदमी बैठे और छठा आदमी ज्वाइन कर रहा है उनको थ्रू VC. माने एक ऐसा मीटिंग हो रहा है जो फिजिकल हो तो रहा है. Some people are joining there by VC. That's the idea of the rules that were drafted long time back. Remember that this was drafted long time back in 2011. There was no crisis at that time. Technology had not developed to the extent it's developed now. We did not have this kind of meeting. I don't think in 2011 it was possible to envisage that 70 odd corporate professionals will be interacting and will be doing a webinar on company meetings, all by VC. There's no one physically present anywhere. We are all physically present at our respective places. All of us are physical. However, we are all connected through use of technology. So that's 173/2 says it's possible. However, the proviso comes with some kind of दे तो रहे लेकिन condition है. Condition क्या है कि for restricted matters you cannot do. Restricted matter also the NCA was grand enough and said well अभी तो 19 मार्च को सर्कुलर दिया कि भाई अभी फिलहाल दिक्कत है तो restricted matters में भी जून तक तुमको छोड़ रहा. जून के बाद मैं इजाजत नहीं दूंगा, restricted matters नहीं कर पाओगे, but जून तक आपको इजाजत दे रहा हूं तो आप जून तक जाके you are free, you can do restricted matters, you can approve financial statements also if you want through the VC. The VC rules are to my mind quite strange because as I mentioned it's drafted in a very, very particular mindset. माने the chairperson of the meeting, first question तो आता है chairperson at a place. There's a place where the chairperson is, and probably the CS is also at some place. So there's something called a place of a meeting, and then the director is participating through VC. So the chairman can see the director. It's an audio visual board, therefore the chairman can see सामने कौन बैठा है. फिर भी वो रोल कॉल लेगा, पूछेगा क्या आप वही हो जो मेरे को दिख रहे हो. It sounds extremely funny that I can see the person right in front of me. It's not like a 100 आदमी वाला meeting where I keep the videos off. I'm sure a board meeting will maximum of 7, 8, 9, 10 people joining by VC. I can see who is right in front of me. I can see their faces. Still I'll ask, भैया आप कौन हो, बताओ अपना नाम बताओ. So I'll take kind of hajri. It's like a hajri session. The chairman will first take a hajri, and at the same time this meeting will be recorded. Board meetings are never recorded. Board meeting in physical sense are never recorded. However, AV meeting, an audio visual meeting will require recording, and the recording has to be preserved. As if my secretary auditor will come and say, "Show me that आपका record कहाँ है board meeting का." Anyways, these are like little funny things in the VC meeting. It's a calling of a board meeting by VC is not a concession from the lawmaker. It's not a dispensation or a concession. This is the way business is. I mean, currently, whole lot of business all over the world. Leave along this exceptional circumstance. January के पहले भी ऐसा ही था. Whole lot of businesses all over the world were happening, making use of technology. तो पता नहीं क्यों इतना मतलब ऐसा reserved thought कि well, as if I'm conferring something which is very very unusual. तुम लोग इसके लायक नहीं हो, लेकिन फिर भी तुमको ऐसा allow कर रहा हूँ. I don't know why this thought process at all. It's as if I'm granting you some concession that you otherwise don't deserve. So I'm allowing you to participate through VC. I'm not sure that's a क्यों thinking आया, but that's the board meeting through VC. Now this also, as I mentioned, the thought process there was that these meetings are happening at some place in physical sense, and the directors are participating. Some directors are participating through VC. But here also it was not thought as if all directors are hooked on, all directors are connected, making use of the VC. Now during the crisis, I'm sure it's not possible for anyone to be physically meeting at any particular place. So during this crisis time, how do you hold board meeting? Sure enough, this will be all VC board meeting. There's no question of a meeting happening at some place, therefore directors joining through VC at some place. It's an all VC meeting. The entire meeting is happening through VC. And there's absolutely no region. I must once again stress, a lot of our colleagues and professionals say, sir, ये तो meeting का place कहाँ देंगे? इस notice में क्या लिखेंगे? Meeting is happening at what place? How can there be a meeting without a place? I feel like saying, how can there be a person without a face? ऐसा पूछ रहे हैं कि आप बिना चेहरे के कैसे हो सकते हैं? ये meeting का place is not like the face of a person. If there's a physical meeting, there has to be a place because people have to, go to a place to meet. If the meeting is happening using technology, उसका place क्या होगा? I don't know if there's a place of a meeting at all. The meeting is happening on the cloud. The meeting is connected, making use of technology. उसका place कुछ नहीं होता है. The meeting is a VC meeting. So all VC meeting is absolutely possible. Don't even have an iota of doubt in that. Don't even keep even slightest of confusion on that. It's possible to have an all VC meeting. Question, all directors will participate electronically. That includes the chairman, that includes the CS. Everyone will be participating in electronically. But of course, our compliance friends will once again consult their books and say, sir, इसमें तो what happens to register under section 189? I have to place the register of contracts before the meeting. My register of contract office में रह गया. अभी VC meeting करूँगा तो कहाँ से वो register of contract लेके आऊँगा, कैसे meeting में place करूँगा? इसका जवाब नहीं हो सकता. अरे, you are in situations where every question is not answerable. I am very sure you don't have the register of contracts in electronic form. I don't suggest you go to your office and grab a copy and get a scan of that. Let's not get into any of that. Register of contracts place nahi hoga to nahi hoga. No one can force you to do something which is just not possible. Therefore, if you don't have register of contracts in electronic form, don't worry on that. Similarly, some people say this is the first board meeting of the financial year. In the first board meeting, I have to place MBP1 given by all the directors. My directors have not given the MBP1 so far. Should I go ahead and do the meeting? Please don't worry. If you are in some state of urgency where you need to take a board decision, this will surely count as the first board meeting of the financial year. If the directors have not been able to put in the MVP once, to my mind, that's not a, I would say, small glitches here and there will all be perfectly pardonable at this point of time. So don't even think as to what will happen to the MVP1, etc. Those all things can be, they will not be like something that stops the invalidates the meeting. The meeting will not get invalidated, nor will your directors be liable to be prosecuted for not filing their MVP1, because sure enough, we don't expect that level of compliances at this stage. So I will once again very quickly say, we will start discussing on the MCA circular now. I'll allow next few minutes to just quickly discuss questions at this stage. To my mind, complete all VC board meetings are perfectly possible. If you're not been able to place 189 register, or you're not been able to place MVP once, don't worry on that. The most important part is to decide and continue to move ahead. Let's not stay anchored to the past, and let not people have a view that the company secretaries or the compliance professionals are the last persons to change. That will be a most unfortunate impression to give. We should not seem like the last person to change. I have a question from Nidhi Dan, who is saying, now that we have seen the impact of COVID-19 creating disturbance all over, can a force majeure clause with effect to conducting the meetings in the articles of association in future take care of? I don't need to go to such intricate things as force majeure. Force majeure is something which typically gives me a carve out from a contractual obligation. I surely say it's a force majeure. I don't even have a doubt on that. Question basically is that, will somebody even say that you're liable to be prosecuted for what you did not do? If you could not do something, it's the sheer impossibility. Can someone say that because you did not do what was impossible, I'll prosecute you? But I'll prosecute you for not doing what you could not have done. Impossibility is always an excuse. I don't need to take shelter under such articulate clauses as the force majeure clause. That's not even required. Let's now straight continue to move forward, and we will be coming to the MCA circular. I'm guessing आप सबको लग रहा होगा कि आपने किया तो सर MCA circular पे था और खाली आप बाकी बातें बोल रहे हैं. MCA circular पे आए नहीं. All of us are so very particularly waiting for the MCA circular bit. So let's come straight to that. MCA circular of 8th of April is a general circular. MCA does not create a law. MCA cannot write a law. MCA can create rules. ये न तो rule है न law है. This is basically just a circle. It's a general circle. So general circular says its aims at clarifying the way forward. It's basically saying, well, you are in a crisis situation. You might need to take decisions. Here I'm allowing, or I'm giving my view, MCA's view, on how a meeting can be held around this time. Is it a prescription or a permission? Is it enabling or is it prescriptive? Is it saying this is how the meeting should be done, or is it saying this is how meeting can be done? So sure enough, in my view, this is enabling, not prescriptive. So if there are other ways of ascertaining the sense of meeting, don't get fixated that MCA ने बोला वो हमको वो ही करना है जो MCA ने बोला. MCA ने बोला वो ही करना है ऐसा माइंड में मत रखिए, because this is purely an enabling provision. And then the circular itself also makes it clear and says this allows companies to hold general meetings in unavoidable circumstances. That would mean if it's unavoidable that you need to take a decision in a meeting formally, in that case this is how the meeting can be done. So of course MCA says आपको जिंदगी भर के लिए इजाजत नहीं दे रहा हूँ, जिंदगी भर के लिए VC आप अलाउ नहीं है, but VC is something limited time permission है till 30th June you can do that. 30 June के बाद फिर technology gets shut. I mean the Zoom platform or WebEx platform or any platform is not a good platform after 30 June. 30 June तक आपको इसलिए इजाजत देता हूँ कि आप लोग तकलीफ पे हो. तो ये तकलीफ में एक रामबाण की तरह आया है कि you can do meetings this way. It's like an ocean for a problem. It's not something that you will live with. As I mentioned earlier, world over, the way business proceeds is making use of technology. Meetings are happening world over using technology. But when it comes to general meeting, I have given you relaxation only till 30th June. Beyond that, I am not willing to allow. I quite often, I would quite hopeful that once the ease and the convenience and the participative nature, the democratic nature of general meetings, making use of the VC becomes known. There's absolutely no reason why the NCA or the law will not permit such meetings in future as well. So I would once again reiterate that who is getting put to inconvenience if the meeting is done by VC? Who is having a problem? Shareholders get better right to participate. Shareholders from all over the country can join. People can join at the respective places. People don't have to travel. People don't have to spend time in queues. People can join with lot more ease. It's lot more participative. It's far more democratic than any other mode of meeting. So I don't know in what way are shareholders put to inconvenience. So why should this be a concession or a dispensation for a limited period or under exceptional circumstance? On the contrary, I would basically say that it's unfortunate that we needed a crisis to make us aware of this. It's more of a necessity than a crisis-driven exception. Right, that's my view though. But well, this is basically for EGMs for so-called unavoidable. If the calling of the meeting is unavoidable, that would be you need to pass either an OR or an SR. And I'm also wondering whether there's anything other than OR or SR also for which you might need a meeting. Meetings are obviously not networking sessions where you just meet for casual meet over coffee kind of a meeting. It's not like coffee meet over of members. The meeting is obviously to pass some resolution, which can either be OR or can be SR. I cannot think of a third type. The OR and SR are only two types of resolutions. So if I'm needing to call an AGM, once again the question can be, can I use this modality for an AGM? If you're relying on the MCA circular, the answer will be no, because the MCA circular makes it very clear that this is something which is permissible for EGM. Remember, I said sometime back as well that lawmakers of the UK law years back, 1940s, Cohen Committee, Jenkins Committee, years back, they thought that shareholders deserve at least one right to see the directors at least once in a year. That was the thing. So AGM will still need to be held. That's the thought process of the lawmakers as far as this law is concerned. I'd also mentioned that way back in 1989, there was a very illustrious scholar called Seeley, S-E-A-L-Y. You would see lots of books by L.S. Seeley. Seeley put up a report called Company Law and Commercial Reality. And then he was appointed as the chairperson of a committee to review the corporate laws. 1986, something that report came. 1989, Companies Act in UK gave lots of relaxations to private companies. The AGM was also relaxed for AGM. A private company in UK does not need anything called an AGM. The whole concept of AGM has been dispensed with unless the members electively vote. The election is given to the members. It's not something which is forced on members. But in India, of course, we have still not come to that thought process. I've got some questions from members already, but I'm just coming to the questions very shortly. So as I mentioned, this is a relaxation or dispensation only in case of EGMs. Now, very importantly, we're talking about two types of companies here. We're talking about companies which are required to provide electronic voting, and we're talking about companies which are not required to provide electronic voting. The circular distinguishes between companies required to provide electronic voting facility and those which are not required to provide such facility. For companies which are required to provide electronic voting, what are those companies? Section 108, Rule 20 talks about companies with 1,000 or more members or equity listed companies. Equity listed companies and companies having at least 1,000 members or more, they will be the ones required to provide the facility of electronic voting. So if my company is required to provide e-voting, then the rules are a bit different. But you can see the larger composition of companies in the country, most of the companies are those which do not need electronic voting facility. So that's something which is not required for most of the companies. Roughly, you can see the pie chart as well. Most of the companies are private companies. Even out of the so-called unlisted companies, most of them are still companies which do not need to provide any kind of LVC facility. So I'm very quickly once again coming to the presentation. Here we are. most of, you can see the pie chart, most of the companies are those which don't need any kind of, electronic voting facility as a part of the law. Now, as regards to the requirement of the so-called VC meeting, now we're talking about an EGM which is conducted on the VC. We said once again, for AGM, you still need to wait. I was mentioning that there might be some developments which might be happening shortly. So we might actually need to wait for some developments to happen as well. But as it stands now, the situation is that the AGM is still not permitted. Now I get to hear that there is a kind of dialogue happening to permit AGMs as well. So maybe hopefully there might be, that dispensation as well. But as of now, we have no permission for AGM. But for EGM, we have the VC EGM already. And I have a question from Chandanaji also. Chandanaji, I'm just coming to you very shortly. Just give me, few more minutes before I finish some basic things about the MCA circular, and then we'll come to the questions. So the common requirements of both those companies which are required to provide electronic voting and those which are not, there must be a recording of transcript on the website. The transcript of the meeting must be posted on the website of the company, if the company has a website. So it goes to say, if the company has a website, then put the transcript on the company's website. First question, which is even more important, we start with a meeting by sending a notice. Meeting has to be conducted by shooting a notice. We'll send a notice of the meeting. How do you send the notice of the meeting? Think of once again the all VC meeting. Am I meaning to say that I will, under situation of crisis, will meeting to Karuna on new technology, but I'll post the envelopes of, containing the notices. I'll print the notices and I'll put them in envelopes and I'll put nicely stamped and then I'll drop in the postal boxes. Now, please understand, none of that is possible. So if I'm envisaging an all VC meeting, I'm envisaging also all notices to go also in the electronic format. There's no question of physical notices for an all VC meeting. The meeting will be entirely by VC. So all my shareholders will presumably be contacted with the electronic notices only. It's thought by some people, and are very responsible people, that currently the circular does not seem to be talking about how the notices will be sent. So there might be issues because people might say, I can send notices by email. What if my shareholders don't have an email? I have such shareholders who don't have an email as well. My shareholders are, let's say, oldies who don't have emails also. Or at least the emails are not been provided to me. How do I send notices? And there is a provision of law that if I have deliberately accidental omission to send a notice will not invalidate the meeting. But the omission is not accidental. The omission is schematic, because schematically you could not have sent notices to people who are not provided email IDs. In that case, how do I actually send out notices? So to this also, hopefully, a clarificatory message may be expected from the MCA shortly to say that if you're proceeding to do meetings by VC, in that case, sending out notices in physical form, in print form, will not at all be required. It would be extremely counterintuitive to believe that I'm doing the meeting on the VC, yet I go printing notices and go posting notices. That is completely counterintuitive. However, the law expects that when I do a meeting, I will actually record the proceedings and I'll put them on the website of the company. Website of the company means what? My company has a website, but my website is meant for my commercial products. So where do I put? The transcript of, first of all, what is the meaning of transcript? Is the transcript the same as the minutes of the meeting, or is there a transcript beyond the meeting? Is it like the kind of recording that we're doing here? Is that the transcript, or is it the minutes? Normally speaking, in corporate laws, the only transcript of a meeting that we understand is the minutes. Minutes are not ad verbatim, word by word record of the meeting. Minutes are minutes. So minutes talk about resolutions, minutes talk about proceedings of meeting. Minutes is not like, electronic record of the proceedings. My submission therefore is that, like in case of the VC, board meetings, probably the lawmakers have thought about some kind of a recorded proceedings of the general meeting as well. So please, the facility will probably record it. So you can, maybe if you have a website, shareholder website, So two things I said, what's the meaning of transcript and what's the meaning of website? Very, very quickly. What's the meaning of transcript? Once you have transcribed the proceedings into minutes, thereafter to my mind there is no relevance of the so-called recorded transcript. Because the circular is not saying till when will you keep the transcript. For how long will you keep the transcript? To my mind, if the minutes are already minuted and signed, then the transcript has no meaning, because the exclusive and conclusive evidence of proceedings of any meeting is the minutes. The law says it very clearly that the minutes are the conclusive evidence. Uske alawa koi evidence nahi hai. The chairperson has signed the minutes. That is the evidence. Nothing more is required. So the transcript may be there till the minutes are signed by the chairperson and put in the minute book. That is my view. Second point, when you talk about website, what is the website of the company you're talking about? Which website? My company has a website which is commercial. I put my products, I put my commercial products, I put their prices, I put contact me kind of a website. So my website is purely for commercial information. Am I expected? My website is not for shareholder information. My website does not contain or does not need to contain shareholder information, because I am completely a private company. I have a website which is for my products and services, but not for my shareholders. Because what point will it serve to put that transcript of proceedings on a website which is not even expected to be accessed by the shareholders? Once again, I'm saying website here means shareholder facing website, investor facing website. If you have an investor information website, you need to put the transcript there. Otherwise, there's absolutely no question of putting the website there. So the timing of the meeting must be conveniently fixed. To keep in mind the time zones. If we talk about India, India has only one time zone, unlike lots of other countries. But if you have shareholders across the world, then keep care of their time zones also. Don't think in terms of Washington time zone or UK time zone, and that might be mismatched with Indian time zone. Think of the majority of shareholders' time zone. Allow 15 minutes extra time before entry. The meeting, let's say, starts at 11. Open the platform at 10:45 or so, let people enter. So that 15 minutes before the meeting is for shareholders to enter. Because I'm sure those who came by Zoom, you understand that it takes some time for the entry. And then keep it open for 15 minutes after the meeting is over. Quick question that comes is, what for are we keeping the website open after the meeting is over? The meeting is over. The chairman has concluded the meeting. Uske baad bhi the platform is over. What for? What are they doing? Is it for shareholders to do what chit chat? So the purpose of keeping that 15-minute window open after the meeting can only be for posting the results of the meeting. And we'll very quickly come to that. The result of the so-called email, shareholders to post email, etc., that can be accomplished in that next 15 minutes. I have some questions already here. So let me quickly take questions before we proceed further. I have a question from Chandanaji, who says, some companies with January, December are required to hold the AGM by 30th June. What could be the solution for them? There are lots of companies which are foreign subsidies, and many of them have December ending. So for all of them, June is the timeline. We are right now in mid of April. Hopefully, let's all hope things might improve. In any case, as I mentioned earlier, there's a strong possibility that the NCA may be kind enough and extend this facility to AGMs also. As I mentioned, countries from where the Companies Act originated, those countries from where the law came, those countries have completely dispensed with the formality of AGM, at least for private companies. And I think VC meeting is the norm elsewhere in the world. So I'm guessing this also will be allowed. Right. So 15 minutes time subsequent to the meeting as well. I've got a comment from Kirti Dureja who is saying something, but I think that's something which is something that we can very quickly come back to. So I was talking about once again the requirements of the VC meeting back here. Now, what should be the features of the platform which is connecting the shareholders? What should be the important features of the platform which is connecting shareholders? This is a very important point. The platform, whatever I choose, the MCA has actually named WebEx. Pata nahi WebEx ko name kiya. WebEx is only one Cisco's platform, but there are lots of other platforms. And I think most of you will probably be using Zoom like they're using Zoom. Many people use Zoom these days. So you can use whatever platform you want. the typical features which are necessary. It must have an audio facility, it must have video, it must allow two-way communication, audio as well as video. I'm not necessarily expecting that every shareholder will be allowed to interact in video mode. That's not required. Shareholders should be allowed to interact, not necessarily in the particular mode. Shareholders can either pre-post questions or can post meeting at the meeting. The video participation of shareholders is not important. It should, however, be capable of being recorded. That's another part. And then additionally, there are two more features which are important. I would say these are not coming from the MCA circular, but you will definitely think these are important. Part one, the platform should also allow documents to be placed in the meeting. Because if I'm doing a meeting by VC, I'll have to place documents as well. For example, if I'm doing a meeting for appointment of the managing director, then the agreement with the MD also has to be put for shareholders inspection. So how do I put that for inspection? I can put it on the platform itself. When you are in the meeting in VC mode, you can go and see the documents as well. Also, additionally, I would say the platform should allow voting also. Because for companies which are not required to put electronic voting facility, question is at the VC meeting, how will votes be cast? MCA say that shareholders can send an email. If we expect shareholders to participate in the meeting and subsequently go and send emails, it will create a mess. Why? Because then you need to also say within how much time can you send the email? Meeting is, let's say, over at 12 noon. Till what time do you expect shareholders to send an email? You tell them to send the email by tomorrow, then you're actually getting into a very funny situation. The meeting was the place to decide. The meeting was the forum to decide. You are permitting shareholders to go home or to, let's say, take time and then decide. You are not giving time to decide. You are giving time to shoot the email. The time given is not for decision making. The time given is for shooting the email. So in my view, it should be possible to put the votes or cast the votes on the platform itself. Many of these platforms, I'm not sure about Zoom, but several of the platforms permit voting as well. And it will not take long time before technology develops, because this is something which is new. And I'm sure tech platforms will very quickly come which allow both VC participation as also voting. So what you would therefore expect is that the voting is happening seamlessly immediately after the meeting as well, so that we are not expecting shareholders to take time and send their votes thereafter, because that would mean decision making after the meeting. Important, the very purpose of the meeting is to decide in the meeting, not after the meeting. So the platform should not give additional time for casting votes. I have several questions that have come up when I probably made some very sensational comments. So I've got several comments here. Chirag Kularji is informing that WebEx allows voting, and I mentioned that there are some platforms that allow voting. I cannot be specific to a particular voting platform. Ramataji said 15-minute time is for allowing participants to join 15 minutes before the meeting, 15 minutes. You're saying 15 minutes after start of meeting as well. I mean, I should not stop entry if the meeting has already begun. I completely agree with that. Then it could also mean that I should keep the entry into the room open even after the meeting has started. So people can enter when the meeting has started as well. 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after the starting point. AV mechanism is mandatory, or telephonic audio is not possible, because as I mentioned, the whole idea of interaction is to seamlessly interact in both AV, because if I'm participating purely by teleconferencing, that is not AV, that's not audiovisual. In today's parlance, thinking of pure, teleconferencing, I think is not in tune with current times. That's not something that we need to get into. We can actually think of AV participation is so very easy that I don't need to think of the good old telephone as the mode of communication. In any case, recording may not be possible. Verification of identities may not be possible. So there might be lots of limitations of purely telephonic conference. Telephonic conference is the way for business, but these days, technology makes it very easy for people to have AV participation. Karishma says circular does not apply to ordinary business. I mentioned that the circular is limited to EGMs only. It is as of now not extended to AGM. This is, however, something that we might expect might be relaxed in some time from now. This is not something to which I'm not a privy to these discussions, but I get to hear from very responsible people that this is also something which may soon be permitted. So I think let's proceed further and certain more points to talk about about the NCA circular. So moving forward quickly. Very interesting, it says the large shareholders must be present. Well, but while you all understand that entry into those platforms is first come, first in basis. What should be the capacity of the platform? The platform should allow at least 500. The number becomes 1,000 for companies with EV, with electronic voting. At least 500, but goes to say 500 or the maximum number of members of the company. My members are only 50, for example. In that case, I don't need to buy 100 members capacity from Zoom. And I'm sure all of you understand that I need to pay as per capacity. So I will need only so much capacity as the number of members. My members are only, let's say, 80. I need to buy up to 100. I don't need to permit beyond that. But then it very importantly says that presence of at least one ID. ID shall attend, and then says auditor or auditor's representative who is qualified to sign, that means he's a chartered accountant, shall attend. अब ये बड़ी अद्भुत बात है. ID shall attend. If the company has an ID, the ID shall attend. But when we call any meeting, whether physical or AV, we always invite the directors also to attend. The chairman obviously always comes because he is the chairperson. IDs, are they required to come? Well, if it's a general meeting, IDs do come because audit committee chairman normally is there, NRC chairman has to be there, etc. But in the AV meeting, which is anyway not AGM, why does the ID have? The ID will be invited. Will strongly impress upon the ID also to kindly sir, Ajay, please join kar lijiyega, etc., etc. ID doesn't come, what happens? I have two IDs, both of them did not join. What do I do? Does that mean the meeting becomes invalid? Now, when the MCA says shall come, you would please plead with them, try to prevail on them, sir, kindly aa jaiye. I am not therefore taking this as a prescription or a kind of mandatory requirement. ID does not come, therefore the meeting is not valid. That's not the view that I want to convey. Even more important will be the presence of the auditor. What for are you needing the auditor for an EGM? My EGM is, for example, being called to increase the share capital of the company. What does the auditor have to do with that? My EGM is called, say, to dispose of an undertaking. What does the auditor have to do? Auditor's presence has no relevance for such resolutions which are not connected with accounts and audit. In any case, accounts and audit is mostly the preserve of the AGM, which I'm not even envisaging here. So the question of the auditor's presence is completely an aberration. And I would take it to mean that if the matter requires auditor's participation, the auditor will also be invited. I think many of you here will be secretarial auditors as well. तुरंत दिमाग में क्वेश्चन आएगा सर ऑडिटर का बोला है सेक्रेटरी ऑडिटर का नहीं बोला सेक्रेटरी ऑडिटर नहीं आएगा कैसे चलेगा उसको भी आना पड़ेगा I leave it to you all to decide whether we would like to impress upon the MCA to increase the requirement. Not only should the auditor but even the secretarial auditor must be present. I'm leaving that for MCA to decide. The presence of institutional investors must also be encouraged. Next comes very, very important point which says resolutions passed in the meeting will be filed within 60 days. Now people have taken this to mean all resolutions passed in the meeting will require filing. That's completely an erroneous belief. This is not a requirement of filing. This is permission to file, remember. It's saying you can file within 60 days. Filing comes from section 117.3, which says you have 30 days to file resolutions which are special resolutions. Special resolutions or resolutions requiring filing in terms of 117.3. For example, contract with a managing director requires filing. Filing is triggered by 117.3, not by this circular. This circular cannot require filing. So the question basically is that if the resolution pertains to a circular which requires filing, then for filing we have 60 days time. We don't have 30 days time as usual. We have 60 days time because we are passing through a difficult time. You might need the chairman to sign the resolution. You might need somebody's physical signature as well. So we have additional time of, up to 60 days to file. Filing is not requirement of the circular. Filing is basically required by the law. And then comes the question, how will the notice be given? Will this notice contain, for example, will the notice say the meeting will be called at such and such place? Will there be something called at such and such place of this meeting? Will this notice contain the roadmap of the place? Blah, blah, blah. These are obviously, I'm sure I don't need to say that this circular, this notice will say the meeting will happen on the VC, by the VC mode at a particular date, particular time. But the resolution, the notice will say the meeting is a VC meeting. And of course, the notice will contain all those requirements which are there in normal notice. The notice will contain the explanatory statement. The notice will do all disclosures as normally required. The notice will give the same text of resolution which we give in physical notices. So the notice will give everything which notices typically contain. Now comes a very, very important point. The point is, if I'm calling the meeting by VC, I'm in some sense of urgency. I am in some state of urgency. So I want the matter to be concluded fast enough. Normally when I call a meeting, how many days notices are you giving? 21 days is what the law says. We exclude the time, the day of the meeting and the day of shooting the notice. So it's 21 clear days. And then we add 2 more days for the time taken in post. So it becomes 21 plus 2 plus 2, that makes it 25. In VC meeting, how many days notice will you give? So sure enough, the 2 days postal time is not required because it's not being dispatched by post. So I will need 21 days time, 21 is clear. But I said I'm using the VC option because I have some kind of urgency. If I have an urgency, am I prepared to wait for 21 days? Will I not call the meeting using a shorter notice? So if I'm calling the meeting with shorter notice, question is how do I get the concurrence of shareholders? Section 101 says I must have concurrence of shareholders to a shorter notice. Where will I take the concurrence? They will probably notice that there is a requirement in some SS2 which says the concurrence must come prior to the meeting. Now, please understand the SS2 or SS1 or whatever SSs that we have, none of them are aligned to these exceptional circumstances. And I'm sure you also understand that the SS also starts by saying that if the law is flexible, so is the SS. SS is not rigid in the law. Law changes, SS automatically changes. We don't need to expect a specific variation to SS. So SS says the consent to shorter notice should be prior to the meeting. Sure enough, I can actually obtain it at the meeting itself because I don't need to call meeting twice. I cannot be expected to take one concurrence first and then do the VC at shorter notice because both can seamlessly happen at the meeting itself. So the first item in the meeting itself will be to permit the short duration of the notice. Members approve it with requisite 95%, 100%. In that case, I can proceed with the short notice meeting. Right? That is an important point. So question, how will the notice of the meeting look like? My colleagues have drafted a kind of a prototype notice. It says, notice is hereby given that the EOGM of the members of this company will be held on whatever date, at whatever time, through the, whatever, I don't need to say Zoom or WebEx or whatever, whichever video conferencing facility you want, through the platform to transact the following business. And then it goes to specify the business, special business, whether OR or SR. So you need to once again say as, go to the resolution, and special resolution, and then go ahead and attach explanatory statements as we commonly do. So when it comes to the notice of the meeting, it's exactly how we do for physical meetings. Quickly some more points and then we proceed forward. In case of companies which are required to provide electronic voting facility, question is how will the voting be done? So in case the company is required to provide electronic voting, the voting at the meeting will also be done using the e-voting facility. That would be typically, as I'm sure all of you understand, e-voting is typically stopped. It is frozen before the meeting, some number of days before the meeting. But in this case, to allow members at the meeting also to vote. So members have voted remotely already. That remote voting is already done. That's pre-meeting remote voting. Now at the meeting as well, voting is happening. That's also through the e-voting board, but that will therefore have to be enabled. So whichever platform, the CDSL, NSDL, whichever, will therefore allow e-voting to happen at the meeting as well, and that would therefore be specific dispensation by the electronic voting platforms. Somewhere it says there will be a voting by show of hands on the election of show of hands at a meeting where the votes are proportionally counted. We count votes proportionally, that is number of votes, not number of hands. It's completely mismatched. It's a total aberration to say, or if there are less than 50 members, you can have voting by show of hands. Because in show of hands, how do you know whose hands am I seeing? I cannot go walking in the room to say किसने हाथ उठाया दिखाओ, फिर आपका कितने shares है बताओ. The aggregation of show of hands is completely out of tune with electronic voting facility. There's nothing called show of hands which can add up the number of votes, number of shares. That sounds so very illogical. I don't even think, and that's a discretion of the chairperson anyway. So if you have e-voting anyway, you don't need show of hands at all. And for companies which are not required to provide e-voting, we mentioned the voting can happen by sending email. My preference would be that actually it could be by voting at the platform itself. The circular is up to 30th June. So 30th June is what? Is it the date of the meeting or date of proceeding to call the meeting? My personal preference is that I would prefer the circular to be of maximum use. So I would say if you proceeded to call the meeting by 30th June, because the circular talks about conducting the meeting. Conducting meeting is what? The date of the meeting or date of dispatching the notice of the meeting? In my view, as I would like to say, I would like to contend that even after 30th June, there should be no hesitation to make this facility a permanent feature of corporate laws. This is how one would love to have. This is how shareholders and participation is better, better and more conveniently possible. It's pro-environment, it's a green initiative, it's pro-shareholders as well. So I don't want to kind of have reservation which limits the utility of the circular. So I would probably say 30th June should be the date by which the proceedings are taken. That would mean that we proceed to call the meeting. That is, the notice is dispatched. Do we have a scrutinizer here as well? My secretarial friends will be extremely unhappy if I were to say that VC meeting में scrutinizer का क्या काम है? But scrutinizer, in all those situations where we need scrutinizer, we'll have a scrutinizer here as well. And in fact, if at all there's an email of the votes, the email should actually go to the scrutinizer. But in order to maintain the sanctity of the voting process, the email should be addressed to the scrutinizer. That's the only way you can retain the sanctity of the meeting. Next question. Can we use this process for class meetings and court convened meetings also? Law is talking about EGA. But can we use the same process for class meetings or court convened meetings as well? Agar you have some restructuring exercise before the court, the NCLT has ordered the calling of the meeting. Am I envisaging that NCLT will say कि नहीं ये meeting तो आपको physical ही करना पड़ेगा? That sounds out of question. Because in current circumstance, question of anyone doing a meeting in physical mode is just out of question. So we'd expect this meeting also, even court convened meetings to also happen using VC facility. No one will object to that. Proxies have any role at all? They have absolutely no role. अच्छा important question. Shareholder खुद vote कर रहा है कि उसका proxy vote कर रहा है in a VC. How do you know? Machines can recognize login IDs. Machines cannot recognize who is using login ID. So if the member is not personally able to log in, somebody else logs in for him. As long as it's putting the right login ID, that's all we need. We don't need anything beyond that. So I guess this is what we had to say. We had a time slot of 1.5 hours for this. We almost at the end of the 1.5 hours time slot. I can see if there are any questions at this stage. This is, quite a senior group of participants. So if there are questions, I'll be happy to maybe take some questions. Right. Kirti Dureja has a question for matters which were earlier approved by shareholders. If the board is amending certain conditions, in that can it be done without shareholders' approval? See, if something is resolved by shareholders and we want to modify that, we need to see, did that original resolution permit the board of directors to make changes? If I'm trying to amend something which is permitted by shareholders and the shareholders did not give me permission to make amendments, I cannot do amendments. I will need the approval of that very body which gave me an approval. If the shareholders permitted the board of directors to change, for example, let's say ESOP plan was approved, the shareholders did not permit the board of directors to make changes, then I cannot make changes myself. I will have to go to shareholders once again. That's the basic principle of law. Any other question? Anyone? We have 61% still in the room, so I'm so very happy that such senior people have been in the room for such a long time. But in the meantime, if there are any questions that anyone has, next few minutes before we close it. And I don't know, you might have noted that we also announced a back to basics kind of a workshop on Companies Act. So ये सब मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ, because मेरे पास और कुछ करने का नहीं है, मैं यही सब कर रहा हूँ अभी. So back to basics is announced starting, I think most likely starting tomorrow. My colleagues will be coming back with an announcement separately for those who have already shown interest. This will be basically intended for very senior people. So though it's called back to basics, but it's not basics like going to school. The basics are very important basics. And there will be 4 sessions of 2 hours each, most likely starting tomorrow. My colleagues are coming back with this announcement. We will take only 50 persons for that workshop. So you'll be getting a mail from Neetu, my colleague. Only 50 persons will be allowed, and there will be a contribution of ₹2,000 per participant, not to me, but to the PM Cares Fund. So participants will be required to, for this one, we had encouraged, but back to basics. Yeah, Chetan Sharma, thank you very much. But yeah, my colleagues will be coming back with the announcement. ₹2,000 is the minimum contribution. You are encouraged to pay more if you want to. Everything is going to, you're not paying anything to us. Pay directly to PM Cares Fund. Show us the receipt, and then you are in. Maximum 50% will be taken. We'll be discussing sections 179 up to section 188. Companies Act की सारी आत्मा वहीं पे. 179 to 188 is the Atma of Companies Act. We'll take that there. So let's quickly see question. Kirti has another question. Enlighten on aspects of matters restricted on which opportunity of being heard is to be given. Very important question. If there's an opportunity of being heard, for example, let's say I'm firing a director. I'm firing an auditor. If I'm removing an auditor or removing a director, there's a question of personal audition. Because in that case, the law requires that the director to be removed or the auditor to be replaced must be given a right of representation to the meeting. Can that be done in the AV board as well? Absolutely, yes. Because there are 2 ways to circulate. Either auditor or director can do a written circulation. That can be done to members by written board. Additionally, the shareholder or the director or the auditor can also be allowed to make a verbal and maybe audio-visual presentation to the meeting. That's definitely possible, even in that case. I'm also getting a question from Monica Kohli. Any specific format for scrutinizer report? Monica, you will not come to the format of scrutinizer's report at this point of time. I would request my colleagues to maybe draft a format and maybe put along with the presentation of this particular presentation today. So the format of scrutinizer report also will try to create one and maybe post that. Can the resolution passed in EGM be signed by chairman with DSC? If the resolution requires filing, we have 60 days time. If you think within 60 days also, we'll still have an issue in signing and filing. To my mind, yes, it's possible to sign with DSC. Hopefully, however, we'll not have the same difficulty over the next 60 days as well. Rinku Maniarai Rinku says the circular uses the word auditor and his representative shall attend. They have not used stat auditor. So does that mean that Rinku is saying the word auditor shall be present? So which auditor are we talking about? We have secretarial auditor, cost auditor, internal auditor, concurrent auditor, forensic auditor. We have whole lot of auditors. So which all auditors are the devtas whose presence is required for this meeting? Only Ganesh ji ka presence chahiye hota hai. Ganesha is what we need for meetings. But यहाँ पे Ganesh जो है, that if the laws talk about auditor without a qualification, auditor without a prefix, he always take it to mean stat auditor. Besides jokes, I said when the word auditor is used by any law without any prefix, we basically mean the statutory auditor. So we will request that stat auditor will be the Ganesha for the meeting. उसकी वंदना करके उसके बाद मीटिंग हम चालू करेंगे. Chirag says matters which are opposite being heard can't be taken to VC as mentioned in point 2. So as I said, I'm not taking the circular to be completely prescriptive, Chirag. So if you want to swear with the circular, in that case I'll go through that. And if it says that matters which require personal representation cannot be done in VC mode, I will go with the circular. Audited accounts can be approved by Board of Directors in audio conferencing in view of the recent MC amendment. Suparna's question, I think yes. Karishma says discussion on all declaration and disclosures from directors and KMPs will be a topic for discussion. Yeah, if you are saying topic for discussion for my back to basics we actually intended sections 179 onwards right till 188, and for 4 meetings of 2 hours each, I think that's enough of an agenda. So whatever comes along, I mean lots of sections for example will come along that. So I think that itself should be sufficient. Ravi Sharma says that someone has made a contribution to PM Cares of 2,000 rupees. Will it be allowed? Of course, yes. The idea is therefore to be as liberal as possible because we are contributing to noble cause. But if you made a contribution already, that will suffice. So if you want to make contribution from today onwards, I'm not saying today or hereafter. I'm saying any contribution of 2,000 rupees or more, as much as you want to PMKS fund is what we need. I think with this, it's time for me to say thank you all. As always, we will be recording. We have recorded this and we'll be placing this also. So thank you very much for being here. It was very, very senior group of participants. Thanks, Siddharth. Thank you very much.